My daycare was a cotton field. Some of my earliest memories are of heading into the fields with my grandparents while they picked cotton. I had my own little sack made from a 5-pound flour bag, and I tried to help, but I didn't last long out there in the hot sun. My grandmother would end up pulling me behind her on a long sack as she moved between the rows. I can still hear her voice reminding me, "Honey Bunch, be careful. That old cotton will cut up your little fingers. That cotton looks soft, but it can be so sharp." To me, cotton is more than just another crop. A cotton field represents the hard work and sacrifices of my grandparents who owned the land they worked on. But cotton also represents slavery, sharecropping, and the roots of a long-standing system designed to keep people who look like me, oppressed. The Mississippi Center for Justice works to dismantle that system. For the last 8.5 years, I have had the honor of helping to lead MCJ, first as a board member, and for close to 5 years now as the president and CEO. But my path to MCJ started long before I joined the board and long before I became an attorney. My path to MCJ began in a cotton field, much like this one, and continued with my own experiences growing up in Mississippi. It was those life experiences that made me want to become a catalyst for change. History books will tell you that the Jim Crow era ended with the passage of the Civil Rights Act when I was 3 years old. But in the Mississippi where I grew up, old Jim Crow was still alive and kicking. The law might have changed, but the day-to-day reality did not. Like other Black children, I entered my doctor's office through a back door, and I sat in a segregated waiting room. I used the colored entrance to the movie theater in my hometown, where I was only allowed to sit in the balcony. I wondered why my grandparents, who were respected leaders in our community, were called Mr. and Mrs. Williams by other Black people, but white people, including white children, called them Mose and Bessie, to which they would answer, Yassa and No. And when I borrowed my grandfather's prized Webster's dictionary, I wondered why he kept a newspaper clipping about lynchings pressed deep within its pages. Even as a child, I recognized the injustice, the disrespect, and the inhumanity created by this system of intentional discrimination. If you ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my answer was Thurgood Marshall.
I remember Vangela as a law student. I was a clinical professor of housing law at the Ole Miss Law School, and I supervised teams of students who assisted low-income Mississippians with their housing needs. Vangela was one of those students. Even back then, she stood out for her seriousness of purpose. I witnessed firsthand Vangela's early commitment to social justice, and I could see the respect that she conveyed towards her clients. So I haven't been surprised at all by what Vangela has achieved at Mississippi Center for Justice, because all those years ago, I had glimpsed Vangela's true character.
I remember walking with my granddaddy through his fields of cotton, beans, corn, sweet potatoes, and, oh yes, watermelons. He told me stories about the years that he spent digging ditches for 50 cents a day, pinching every penny until he finally had enough money saved to buy his own land. On those walks with my granddaddy Mose, I learned how property ownership could provide a sense of independence and pride, could lift families out of poverty, create generational wealth, and bring stability to entire communities. For a man with a 6th grade education, My granddaddy Mose was the wisest man I've ever known.
When Vangela asked me to join MCJ, she had a vision for a new campaign that would help small farmers and landowners keep the property they worked so hard for. It was a vision for the long-term good of Mississippi. And once I heard it, I was sold on MCJ. Having a job that allows me to help people build that same legacy, it's a dream come true.
Vangela sees the big picture. She'd been president of MCJ for a little over 2 months when COVID-19 shut down everything, including the schools. It would have been easy for Vangela to focus only on the immediate issues, the things that had to be addressed that month or that week or that minute. But Vangela realized the shutdown was going to make an education system that was already failing so many children even worse. When Vangela received an award from Black Voices for Black Justice, recognizing her leadership, she donated the $50,000 honorarium that came with it to MCJ to help fund an education project that addressed the impact of the pandemic on children and families in the Delta. The ability to see the big long-term picture is one of the things that makes Vangela a good leader. But caring enough to invest her own money in the work, well, I think that makes Vangela a great leader.
I was a divorced single mother in my first year of law school when I found the lump in my breast. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have any money, but I had prayer, faith, and determination. So for the next 3 years, I gambled with my life. After I graduated from law school, I went to work at the Mississippi Court of Appeals, and finally, I had health insurance. I had the lump biopsied, and yes, it was cancerous. I underwent treatment, and for 28 years now, I have been cancer-free, but not free of the memory. Every day, I think about how lucky I am to be alive. And every day, I am enraged by a system that tells struggling Mississippians that their health doesn't matter, that their lives don't matter.
It can get exhausting when you're fighting some of the same issues, the same injustices year after year. Can you say Medicaid expansion? But Vangela brought renewed energy to MCJ. She promoted a sense of ownership and responsibility among all of our staff members.
Vangela had just taken over as president when she called me to tell me that the grant that funded my position had run out, and my last day would be March the 15th. When Vangela gave me an option of taking a severance package, I was the only person working in the Indianola office at the time, and the people in the Delta needed help. So I just kept working. On March the 14th, which, by the way, is my birthday, Vangela called me. She told me that the Delta needed MCJ and that MCJ needed me. And for the next year, Vangela and her husband, Tondi, paid my salary out of their own pockets. For Vangela and Tondi to invest in my community like that, a part of the Mississippi Delta, a part of Mississippi that they don't live in, and for them to invest in me, I will forever be grateful. I still can't believe they did that.
One of the most important things Vangela accomplished was building a strong staff and a strong operations infrastructure. That keeps MCJ running smoothly, so our attorneys and staff can focus on the people we serve. For our new president and CEO, having that strong infrastructure in place is a game changer that will allow them to hit the ground running.
Vangela may be leaving, but she created a blueprint for sustainability. Whoever comes behind her is going to be positioned for success.
As a child, I had a stutter. There was a time when I couldn't even say my own name. To this day, I still have trouble ordering at a drive-through window. My stuttering made me an easy target for bullies, but I also had an entire community in Verona, Mississippi that supported me. And when I couldn't get the words out, they were there to say, "It's okay, baby. just start over. It's the same for MCJ. We are here to speak up for those who are bullied, forgotten, and marginalized. Every Mississippian who doesn't have a voice.
We want to continue helping to support the Mississippi Center for Justice because of your commitment to the very same issues Pat and I are committed to here in Mississippi, promoting educational opportunities, especially in low-income communities, and getting access to affordable health care.
You all are also committed to seeking economic and legal justice for the most vulnerable in our state in your Fair Housing Program and your Heirs Property Program, both of which are improving the lives of Mississippians.
It might seem strange, but I actually enjoy Vangela's impatience. A lot of times we are blocking and tackling more than we are advancing the ball down the field. But we have had deep conversations about how important it is for this work to continue, because there are so many things that could be so much worse if we weren't blocking and tackling. So I have known MCJ since its very beginning. I think the organization is in a good position to move forward in these challenging times.
Over the last 5 years, MCJ has absolutely thrived. Our financial position for current operations is solid and secure. Our newly created endowment will extend that financial stability for decades to come. MCJ is a nationally recognized voice in racial, social, and economic justice. Our people are engaged in the most critical civil rights issues of our times. MCJ is perfectly poised for the next quantum leap ahead.
Thank you, Vangela, for being the strategic leader that you are, that will ensure the stability and the commitment and the effectiveness of the Mississippi Center forever going into the future.
In 1979, I was a freshman sitting in a classroom at Tuskegee Institute when the professor asked us, "Why are you here?" That question has stuck with me. Why am I here? What do I have to offer? And how can I make a difference? Serving as president and CEO of MCJ has been so much more than a job to me. It's been a part of my life's purpose, the answer to the question my professor was asking all those years ago. I'm stepping down as president and CEO, but I'm not leaving the fight. I'm more determined than ever to cause the kind of good trouble that will create a more just and equitable Mississippi. And no matter where I go from here, I'll know that I was put here to lead the Mississippi Center for Justice during this time.